You guys might not have realized this, but a staggering 75% of all users will stop their GLP-1 medications within a single year, and only 5 to 10% of those because they're happy with their results. This is mainly due to side effects, complications, stalled weight loss, slowed weight loss as well, and of course, access and insurance coverage issues. After coaching thousands of individuals on these medications for several years now, I can truthfully say that you gotta have coaching, you gotta have guidance, you need to have structure, you gotta know what to do, you gotta know how to do it, you gotta know when to do it, you gotta know why to do it, and you gotta stay motivated, you gotta stay excited, enthusiastic about it. Unfortunately, this just doesn't exist in GLP-1 medication world. If you want to become that 5 to 10%, then you need to pay attention to this video. So the GLP-1 medication space is just fascinating, to say the least. I mean, honestly, what's even more fascinating than GLP-1 medications is at the time I'm making this video, the new commissioner of the FDA being a much bigger fan of compounded GLP-1s. I mean, I'll save that for another video. It's truthfully an amazing thing. This is the most powerful compound support medication peptide. It's interesting, right? Do you call it a medication? Do you call it a peptide? Many people will call this a medication. Is it a pure peptide? No, because it's been adulterated. They've modified the peptide to extend the half-life significantly. You have these naturally occurring incretin hormones in the body, and these incretin hormones are what's responsible for fullness and satiety after you eat, and they only last seconds in the body, and they've been modified to last significantly longer, all the way up to the newest ones that are starting with Semaglutide, or also Ozempic or Wegovy, now freaking last about a week. We're not talking about pure unadulterated peptides anymore. That's why they have side effects. And so you call it a medication, call it a peptide medication. In any case, these are the most powerful tools that we've ever had in obesity, in diabetes, in metabolic health. In case you guys didn't know this is also really fascinating. These medications are being studied for Alzheimer's prevention, for various neurodegenerative issues, GI issues, autoimmune issues, chronic kidney disease, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, freaking addiction issues. It's really fascinating, that we've been able to get this far. Because when you look at the history of medicine, it's always been very symptomatic based. It's a new medication for a new symptom, a new medication for a new symptom. And these symptoms are almost always downstream effects of some underlying health issues. And you guys know how I feel about the lack of preventative medicine. Again, can you smell the change that's happening with RFK and everything? It's so exciting right now. It literally is a complete 180 shift to the people that have the power to make real change happen and end pharmaceutical and corporate greed, because it's not just big pharma, big food too as well. Anyways, you can tell I'm really excited about that. But and there's going to be downstream impacts of these GLP-1s. The way that they're being used right now, especially if you're on them, you know this process all too familiar, right? Let's clear up some names. Semaglutide is the active ingredient in Ozempic and Wegovy, and tirzepatide is the active ingredient in Mounjaro Zepbound. So if you started off with a semaglutide, 0.25, and you probably after 4 weeks were bumped up to 0.5, and then 4 more weeks bumped up to 1, and then 4 more weeks probably bumped up to 1.5 or 2, and there you are, 2, and then maybe 2.4, that's the maximum dose. And then with tirzepatide, it was 2.5, and then it was 5, and then it was either 7.5 or 10, and then it was either 12.5 or 15. And that's it. This is the medical research. This is the FDA approved protocols. My gosh, I mean, if that's what the research shows, that you have to use these GLP-1 medications every 4 weeks, bump the dose up every 4 weeks, then that's what we got to do, right? It's so crazy to me when the concept of increasing the dose slower, keeping a patient on a dose longer, becomes a question, a discussion. Like, medical practitioners are always supposed to use their best clinical judgment, make decisions that are in favor for the patient's health, minimizing risks, but making decisions to save their life is ultimately one way to summarize healthcare. And look, If we're talking about diabetics, it's a completely different story. We're talking about weight loss. There seems to be discussion or concern about keeping a patient on their dose for a longer period of time. And it's really fascinating because, when I talk to my medical practitioners, in case you guys don't know, my name is Dr. Jones. I have clinics we service across the nation, all 50 states. And, I work side by side my medical practitioners. We have these conversations, right? And they're always asking me how it's going with the coaching and what's happening, because they'll make these changes and I'm the one that's implementing the lifestyle strategies and seeing how they respond and reporting back to them. And so it's always a really good clinical meeting. But they're on the same page as me, and this idea that we should be approaching GLP-1s with the goal, like if we're talking about the goal of like how the treatment is done, obviously we know the goal of the therapy is to lose weight, and then the goal of the patient is to lose weight and maintain it for life. But the goal of the therapy for us and how it's done and administered is very different. We painted the picture earlier about how it's being currently done, and people are being, every 4 weeks, their doses are being increased. But the way we do it is we keep people on the lowest doses possible. I've made many replies to different doctors talking about this issue. I did a reply not too long ago about a doctor who mentioned outright that they automatically move people up unless the patient says they don't want to move up, which I thought was really fascinating, and I had my opinions, as you can probably guess. But then I did another reply today on my short format for TikTok and the short videos, and the doctor was totally on the same page with us about finding the effective dose and taking your time to get to the effective dose. I thought that was absolutely amazing. So I know word is spreading. I know people are starting to kind of understand, maybe there's a different approach. The explosion of GLP-1 medication use, the desire for these medications has just been astronomical. The demand. This is why they got put on the shortage list to begin with, and they were available for compounding pharmacies to make, which dropped the price dramatically because the compounded versions are usually 4 to 5 times cheaper for the same active ingredient, by the way. And so even with GLP-1s, people are regaining their weight. It's already proven in the research, as you can see here in the study. So you gotta have an effective plan. You gotta be able to implement that plan. To me, it's these lifestyle strategies. It's finding a base of sustainable lifestyle strategies. The art is in the coaching, the guidance, the structure, which I think we personally have really dialed in, guys. There'll be a link in my show notes description if you want to schedule a free consultation with my team. But it really is amazing when I am doing my coaching calls and I see patients that started off 50 pounds, 75 pounds overweight, and they were able to stay at tirzepatide at 5 milligrams. They never had to go up. Getting into a caloric deficit is necessary no matter what. You can mobilize all the fat you want, but if you're not in a caloric deficit, there's not going to be any net weight loss, any net fat loss. So that's why calories do matter. How stressful is it for your body to react to the caloric deficit and procure the energy that it needs? When your body is very metabolically flexible and very fit, you could skip a day without eating, or 2 for that matter, or go keto, and your body has no problem switching gears from carbohydrate metabolism and glucose metabolism to ketone production and fat burning. The next question that you might be wondering, should these medications be taken forever? That goes back to the narrative, guys. What do you believe? Do you think obesity is a chronic irreversible disease? Well, if you think that, then logically you're going to need to be on the medication for the rest of your life. Of course, there are many people taking these medications that don't have full-blown obesity, and then there's people that are obviously obese taking it. But even for the obese individuals, there's a real shot to beat this thing, and it starts up here. If you guys want to be connected to me, if you want to have more access, the community is amazing. We have thousands of individuals who are all kicking ass right now, implementing the FLOA protocol and implementing my guidance to make sure that they use these medications correctly. It's $27 a month, and you can join right now by clicking that subscription button on your YouTube page.